2, 1. Emil, it's all yours.
Hi, this is Emil Fix with Jiu-Jitsu Times. We are here talking to Rose, Gracie, Chad, George. We got Greg from the Philly Jiu-Jitsu Festival. And soon to join us, we're going to have Kawan Gracie. We're going to be talking about some events that are happening shortly here. We're going to be talking about the sub-only movement and what's going on right now in the jiu-jitsu world. I've got my co-host, Chris Zahar, and we're very excited to have these esteemed guests with us. So I guess the first question, I want to talk to Greg about the Philly Jiu-Jitsu Festival. Tell us a bit about it. Tell us a bit about what you've got going on.
Yeah, well, so we're basically trying to bring, along with the Fit Expo that's coming to Philadelphia end of the month, we're trying to bring what started really with Rose's Gracie Worlds format and kind of the feeling of what she brings to the table with that event. I've done it several times and been able to be involved with it, helping out and stuff. And it's just a phenomenal event for both the competitor and the spectator. And I wanted to bring that feel to Philadelphia. So when she talked about, the opportunity to do that when the Fit Expo was coming to Philadelphia, I, of course, jumped at the opportunity. So we're trying to create the whole weekend as just like a celebration of jiu-jitsu with a tournament on Saturday and a, Rose's event for kids on Sunday. So, and also with the Kawan as well with a movement class to go with that. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And what's your background in jiu-jitsu, Greg? What's your
Well, I train at Balance Studios here in Philadelphia. Been a purple belt there. I've been training about 7 years, and I've really just been fortunate to just travel and do a lot of training over the last couple of years. I got to spent about 8 months in China teaching and running a jiu-jitsu school. So I kind of been all over the place, got to train with a lot of cool people. And along that journey, I got to meet Rose, and she's like,
lucky him.
Yes, she's like she is to many people. She's like my big sister. So, younger
sister. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you look like my younger sister, but but yeah, I've been really fortunate to and actually a lot of doors have been opened up for me to meet a lot of different really cool people. A lot of them are members of her family and or just friends of hers. So I've been really fortunate and blessed to meet a lot of different people. And Rose has definitely been, if she hasn't introduced me to that person, she definitely she's a very much like a family person. Like obviously comes from a huge family, and she makes everyone feel like they're part of the family. So yeah, that's my background in jiu-jitsu. So, and with, like I said, when the opportunity came to bring that to Philadelphia, I just jumped at the chance. So
that's so cool.
And the other thing too is this event is in downtown Philadelphia, which that's one of like the running jokes in Philadelphia, and I'm sure it's in other cities too, is that you hear like Philadelphia jiu-jitsu whatever tournament, but it's like 45 minutes, an hour outside of actual Philadelphia. It's like a suburb. So this is actually right in the heart of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia has a really like developed and robust jiu-jitsu scene, but every major tournament is in New York or Washington, D.C. There's nothing ever in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So this is an opportunity to not only put it in downtown Philadelphia, but also, connect everybody together. So.
Or California, of course. California's the big, L.A., definitely.
So that's a...
Chad is like snapping his finger at him like he's a dog.
Hey, Chad, we can't hear your mom at all.
It's Chad, Ras.
I was wondering who that was. Yeah.
Hey, mom, they can hear you on this interview.
Hi, Mom.
It's a bunch of people on this call, and they all say hi, Mom.
Chad, tell them I'm your mother.
My mother says hello.
So, Rose, tell us a bit about how the whole Gracie Nationals, the Gracie Worlds, how that tournament has taken shape over the past couple of years. I know that it's been a major element in the sub-only movement. So tell us a bit about that, please.
About how what? I'm sorry?
About how your tournament has become a central point of the sub-only movement.
Well, it's what started the submission only movement. So
exactly.
Yes. So how did that come about?
Yes.
Okay, so I was running. I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to run my own tournament because I was a little tired of the tournament being like, it depended if you're Brazilian or not, who your coach was, you know, who you knew in the event to be able to. Are they on?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Right.
Are they on?
Because it cut off everybody on the left, so I only see you right now.
Oh, okay. No, I see everybody now. I got all four of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of how the whole submission only movement start for me, is that I was a little sick and tired of seeing how the rules and the politics were happening in the jiu-jitsu tournament, and I really, really didn't like the point system where the advantages and all that stuff. I wanted to create a new possibility for the competitors. So I came up with the idea of doing the submission only move, like the submission only style of event. And it was actually something that I made with my dad's event that he was running back in 2003. I helped him run the International Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Federation event. And I got a little bit of that, a little bit of different ideas. I called the Valenta brothers, Henry Akins. I had a few people that I called, and that's kind of how the wheels started. It felt like me, so I figured might as well. And it worked. I didn't know if I was going to have any results. I remember telling the guys at the expo, I said, you know what, we're probably only going to have 30 people compete against each other for the rest of the year. But, you know, it's we're going to try and see what happens. And they were totally supportive to me, and it actually turned out to be a success, which was really, really great.
That's awesome. And Chad, tell us a bit about your involvement in this. Are you going to be doing a combat jiu-jitsu match, or what's going on with this?
So I wish I was doing a combat jiu-jitsu match. That would be fun. Maybe we can do that for the next time around. But no, I'm gonna be going out there and I'm gonna be doing a super fight. I think we're the headline match.
Yeah, you're the main event.
And I'm going to be competing against Frank Rosenthal, who just competed last night at Kasai Pro. He's a Renzo Gracie black belt, Danaher Death Squad member, so he's a very talented competitor, and I'm really excited. You know, like for me, I've been competing my whole life, and I've always wanted to compete against the best out there. And originally, I was slated against John Calistine before he won EBI, and then I think he hurt his shoulder at EBI, and so now I have his training partner as a replacement.
Nice.
Wow. One question, a little off topic, but I just got to ask you, considering it's the talk of the jiu-jitsu community now. How many people predicted that Nikki Ryan would win that match against Gio Martinez?
Well,
you know what though? Here's the thing. You got to remember, Nikki Ryan has been beating everybody he goes in competition with. He looked phenomenal at the ADCC trials. You know, so it's like this kid, you can't put anything past him. Yeah. And look at the way he's gone against other adult black belts from different organizations and groups, and he's just excelled each time.
Yeah,
he's like one of those people you just can't ever look past, and he looked amazing last night.
Yeah, and he's still a purple belt, right?
16 years old.
16 years ogi, purple belt, and yeah, he took out one of the. Well, I shouldn't say he took out. It was a decision win, but still, you know, one of the top no-gi competitors. You know, a multiple-time EBI champion.
Yeah, Gio's amazing.
That match in a no-time limit.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, I don't know how that would have been. That would have been interesting. That would have definitely.
Because I was thinking about it, and I think at the end of that match, I mean, don't get me wrong, Nikki did a great setup to get that last little catch at the end of it, but I think it was more Gio thinking there was only short time left, so he got a little complacent. Mm-hmm. And I think that's all it was.
Listen, I'm not competing in jiu-jitsu by no means of the imagination, but I do think that once you step on the mat with the mentality that you have a set time limit, it's completely different than when you step on the mat with the idea that there's no time limit involved. So when there's no time limit involved at all, the mentality is completely different. So I feel like if there's a no time limit situation for those two, then maybe the approach would have been different. I think the result could have been different too. Not to say that Nikki wouldn't have won or Gio would have won, but it's something that I actually will be interested to see because of their mentality stepping into the mat would have been different.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to do a no time limit combat jiu-jitsu match.
I can make that happen.
Wow. Now that would be interesting. Be like First Blood or something. I don't know.
I think that would be
That would actually be an awesome concept in and of itself. You go until first blood.
Yeah, it'd almost be like a WWE match in that sense. Yeah, that would be interesting.
I don't like where you said blood in combat jiu-jitsu. Is that what you said, right?
I was kind of joking. I didn't mean that.
He
literally.
said first blood.
Yeah, I was talking about first blood almost.
Yeah,
it was...
no, I don't like in combat jiu-jitsu. I don't like the palm strikes. But I do like the slaps. I just want them to be aware of what's happening as opposed to hurting the opponent. Because with palm strikes, you can actually break somebody's nose. You can break their orbital. I mean, it could be pretty dangerous having the palm strikes. So I would like to see combat jiu-jitsu, but just with the slaps, not with the strikes. So.
Well, haven't you seen those slap contests where those guys are getting knocked out? It's like all over the internet.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? The ones that they don't touch each other? They're like,
no, the kids in like neighborhoods, they literally slap each other.
It's like a whole thing right now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen those either, actually.
I have. You're working most of the time, so I don't spend as much time on YouTube or Instagram, but I'll check it out.
Okay. Also, we'd like to welcome to the chat, too, Kawan. I practiced saying your name like about 3 times, and I kept on messing it up. Okay. I'll get it right sometime by the end of this interview. Okay, so welcome. Welcome to the chat.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, guys. What's up? How are you?
Good.
Hi, Kawan.
I'm very excited about our Philly event. I'm very excited to be on the chat. Thank you very much. I don't think I know everyone, or do I know everyone?
It don't matter. You know me. That's all you need.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So tell us a bit about what you're going to be doing at the Philly event. Tell us a bit about your movement academy and what you're doing with that.
So we have a regular Jiu-Jitsu academy. I love it. It's really nice. We have a great kids program, a really nice adults program. And what I'm going to be doing at the Philly is a movement workshop, so kind of helping people connect to their movement, their breath, help them loosen up before their competition, kind of challenge them physically. So, yeah, we're doing.
I don't know if she knows this, but she's also doing the same thing at the kids event.
Oh, yeah?
Nice.
Yes, and then I'm doing that with the kids, too. Rose's kids part, which is exciting.
So there's a lot of different styles of movement exercises that are out there. I think there's something called, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it, Gimnastica Natural. There's other sorts of movement techniques out there. What is it that sets yours apart? What makes yours different? What makes yours the same?
I come from probably, I would say, the lineage of Bioginástica, which is Orlando Cunning. He's out of Brazil. He is the person who kind of taught my dad his breathing work. And I think that the focus on the connection with the breath, which I think is one of the strongest elements, like really, if you don't breathe for a couple minutes, you die. You cannot eat, you cannot have water for a couple days, but you have to be very connected to your breath. So it kind of gives you that extra strength when you need it. It keeps you calm when you need to be calm. So I think that the more you can find the connection with your movement, then in a high stress situation, in a fight situation, in a competition, you'll be able to be calm and stay focused and do what you have to do. And I think that's kind of and it becomes this meditation, this movement meditation, where you can be absolutely present in what you're doing. So then it's like your reflexes are the sharpest they could be.
Well, can I ask questions too? Of course.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a conversation, so everything. Yeah.
So, Cow.
I have 6 faces looking at me. I feel so.
She loves it.
Even
All
my
the
own
attention.
face.
On mine. Just look. So check this out. So isn't Orlando Cunning the gentleman that taught your dad, the original guy that came up with actually the moves from Ginástica Natural that Alvinho took over and did that stuff? So do you imitate? Is there a lot of animal stuff, instant stuff in your movement classes?
Yes, there is a lot of movement and animal stuff. And that does come from Orlando. And yes, Alvinho, who is the guy who is now responsible for Ginástica Natural, was a student of Orlando Cunning, who then came to America and kind of patented that. But yeah, there's a lot of animals. It's very yes.
I remember you telling me something about the breeding techniques and the stuff that your dad was doing about the animal thing, like when the animal, like when he's about to fight and how he does the breeding. Do you remember that?
Yeah, like when you're waiting, like how the prayer is, or even like a cheetah, when after they run, they always exhale. So they're always like regenerating their air, whereas us as humans have become this thing where we want to trap our air, like, so then we don't get the like refreshing. And yeah, so from the animals we can learn a lot about just going back to our natural breath, and that actually ends up being more helpful for us. Like the cheetah runs a lot because they're constantly like, and inhaling is like a reflex. So if you think about exhaling, you'll naturally be inhaling. So if you think about just letting the breath out, I'm actually also inhaling, so I'm filtering very fast. As opposed to if you think about inhaling, then you also have to think about exhaling. So it's like a 2-time breath, which actually takes longer. That's the kind of breath that will create heat in your body. That might be like Wim Hof breathing or something like that.
Dang.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it was. Wow, that is. I mean, and it's, you know, it's one of those things that makes sense, makes total sense, but for some reason, it's just one of those things people never think to do. And it doesn't. It just makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Telling him about, like, weren't you telling me about the animal growling, like before a fight? Were you the one saying that to me?
I don't know, but they do. Oh yeah, that's just a way of like getting ready to
for a fight, right? Like when the animal.
Exactly. There's a lot of.
And then you added with this breathing techniques, you have the movements alongside the breathing techniques, and that's what you, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea of if you can move better alone, you'll be able to move better with somebody in your jiu-jitsu. It kind of helps you just bring general awareness to your body. Self-defense, I think, is about like awareness of your body, awareness of your surroundings, so then you can develop this instinct and reflex, because you're never really going to know what's going to happen. So basically it's just developed this reflex to whatever does happen.
Very cool.
Makes sense.
No, totally makes sense.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the competition too, and the kids event, and what Rose is doing. The little guys, kids are very amazing to work with. They just pick everything up so fast. They're so open to whatever you're trying to do with them, and so that should be very exciting too. It's my first kids festival.
Wow.
Not last.
Not the last, no, of course not.
I remember that this kids festival is not just for jiu-jitsu kids. So actually, kids that never trained jiu-jitsu before, to expose them a little bit to actual what jiu-jitsu is. So we have the self-defense, we have the movement class with Kawan, we have a little bit of introduction of combat jiu-jitsu with Kat. You didn't know that, Kat, but you're doing that too. So.
Oh.
So it's an all-around like introduction for people who just don't know anything about jiu-jitsu. Yeah, so it's like a tournament introduction.
Yeah, and the ones that do know about jiu-jitsu is an introduction to the different aspects of jiu-jitsu. So it's actually go for both ways. So it's like it's open to all the kids that attend the Fit Expo, but also open to obviously the jiu-jitsu kids, the kids that do practice jiu-jitsu, somewhere that they can kind of come in and learn some different techniques and different stuff that they can be doing in their schools and games and whatnot. You know, just kind of a little resource things for people to be able to take it back to their schools and implement it in the kids' class, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. So did I understand you correctly? You're going to also be introducing the kids to combat jiu-jitsu and stuff?
Well, it's an introduction to, you got to understand that what combat jiu-jitsu is actually the real jiu-jitsu, because the real jiu-jitsu is not just the grappling, although a lot of people think jiu-jitsu has no strikes in. What combat jiu-jitsu does is just makes people aware where punches are coming from. Mm-hmm. So instead of you like not knowing how to keep your hands up or learn how to swim from the bottom to stop the block or block the punches, that's what they're learning with combat jiu-jitsu, is the idea of learning how to be able to stop punches. So it's not jiu-jitsu and combat jiu-jitsu is not a different thing. It's actually the same thing. It was just mainly a combat jiu-jitsu so people can understand that it's not just the grappling aspect of it. That's pretty much what it is. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's one thing.
I think you would
Oh,
know.
okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought you wanted my high and mighty blue belt opinion. Sorry.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with blue belts.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. I know. I've been one for 3 years.
So I've got a question. Are you expecting a decent number of non-jiu-jitsu people to be at the event? Because I know that Rose and Kwan were mentioning that, it's movement drills are a good way to expose people who don't jiu-jitsu to some of the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu.
It's open for all the kids that attend the Fit Expo, not just jiu-jitsu.
So, are you expecting a decent turnout of non-jiu-jitsu people?
I mean, it's the first time that I'm going to Philly, so I don't know what to expect. But I'm not worried. If there's 2 kids to play, so it doesn't matter. It's a beginning stages of this event. I'm doing it all correctly or not, but I'm going in and I fine-tuning to it. It's just kind of what happens with every single event, It's a free event for all children, so I'm hoping that kids will be more, excited about attending or even facilitate them for attending, even the kids that can afford usually a jiu-jitsu event. So, usually there are kids that are not part of jiu-jitsu at all that do attend, but it's because it's enjoyable with the expo. But we've never been to Philly before, so this is all a new experience. And I don't usually go with anything pre in my head concern or anything. I'm ready to put on the event, and whatever happens, happens. It is what it is. So.
I know I have a lot of friends from the area who have kids now that are in the 5-6-year-old range, and a bunch of them are bringing their kids. They've been asking me for years. I've been trying to get them to do jiu-jitsu, and this is kind of like their opportunity to come check it out. So I do know and there are people that are talking about it, and it's going to be a fun event all around.
Yes, for sure, Will.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyone else?
What exactly?
I said, anybody else have any questions? Emil, anybody?
I've got a world of questions.
Oh, go ahead.
All right.
The question I had for Chad was, tell us a bit about thoughts on combat jiu-jitsu as it's developing as a sport within the kind of a microcosm within the jiu-jitsu world.
Well, I think combat jiu-jitsu has been around forever. I mean, people, we look at MMA and we start seeing, the ground and pound days from the earlier, UFCs. But now that it's coming around to the forefront, we finally get to see elite jiu-jitsu competitors using this stuff to see what really works and what doesn't work. And I think on the first couple events that were out there, we really truly get to see, you can't stall in certain positions. So it makes things a little more exciting. And I think this thing is going to start taking off as long as they start, putting the events on. I'd like to see combat jiu-jitsu events start going around all over the place, maybe not just associated with EBI, maybe with these other organizations as well. Let's start pitting the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world against MMA guys who have the striking experience on the ground. Let's see who really is able to use elite jiu-jitsu, and if they can stop the strikes coming in and implement their game. Like Rose said earlier, combat jiu-jitsu is really the ultimate form of what jiu-jitsu is. It was designed as a self-defense system. And this is how we're going to really see this stuff come back to its roots and really demonstrate what this stuff was brought to us for.
Was intended to be, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, my girl Elio never practiced anything else but combat jiu-jitsu.
One argument that I've made and that I've heard other people make is that the aim of combat jiu-jitsu, or the purported intention of combat jiu-jitsu, can already be seen in MMA. So why not just do MMA? I don't know. I'm asking. It's not me telling anything.
Well, I think what
you might. Okay. Go ahead, Chad.
Okay. So for me, I actually have a good explanation for that, because MMA, there's so many other facets. We're talking about on-the-ground jiu-jitsu. We're not talking about the standing arts. We've got plenty of ways to figure out who's the best kickboxer, who's the best Muay Thai fighter, who's the best wrestler. Let's put it on the ground and let's see who truly has the best jiu-jitsu in the world using these concepts on the ground. As soon as we start adding elbows and closed fists, yeah, it does change things a little bit. But I think that the systematic approach is the same. And so if you are using open hand strikes, I know Rose and I probably differ on this a little bit. I like the palm strikes because it makes you know that you have to move. Like the slapping, yeah, it can be annoying, but a palm strike can hurt you. And if you don't move, those can really start to add up on you.
Yeah, well, I just see it that the intention is not to hurt the opponent. When you're doing MMA, you have the kicks, yes, you have the elbows, you have that stuff. I think combat jiu-jitsu, the idea and the goal would be to just make people aware where punches are coming from, as opposed to not having any awareness of it. And the reason why I don't like the palm strikes is, like I said before, is that there's no intention of hurting somebody else. I just want them to be awakened for it. That's it. True. And with palm strikes, you can really jack somebody up.
That's true, but also with a lot of the joint locks, you can too. So, I mean, I guess, you are still trying to finish your opponent. Knee locks, arm locks, there's an argument there for that as well. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just saying there's an argument for it.
Fine.
Yeah, I mean, and combat jiu-jitsu, I just think, is a little bit more inclusive. I mean, MMA is brutal. I mean, it is. It's probably the most brutal sport out there. So, I mean, I always tend to view combat jiu-jitsu as kind of like MMA light. It's like you want to go a little bit further than jiu-jitsu, but you're not quite ready to go to MMA.
Yeah, but that's what
let's
think jiu-jitsu is MMA. It's the same exact jiu-jitsu.
But here's the problem with MMA.
Down to health, all that stuff. That's what jiu-jitsu is. So the conception that jiu-jitsu is only on the ground is a mistake. If you look at MMA and jiu-jitsu, as like my grandpa was practicing, it's the same thing. Jiu-jitsu is the most complete form of self-defense, and therefore, they were punching at the Gracie Academy back in the days when we were young. There was punches, there's all that stuff. It just stopped at one point, and then people all of a sudden think jiu-jitsu is on the ground, and combat jiu-jitsu is a little step higher, closer to MMA. There's no such a thing because MMA and jiu-jitsu is supposed to be the same exact thing.
Yeah, I think when it comes to marketing and just culture-wise, though, MMA has moved away, at least as a macro, as a martial arts event or sport, where jiu-jitsu really has birthed combat jiu-jitsu, and I think combat jiu-jitsu still follows the family of martial arts, to where the events are still ran like a martial arts event. People still are treating themselves as martial artists. Where in MMA, a lot of those people have moved away from that, and it's really unfortunate. They think, they're just tough guys, or that they're not, part of that same culture, which, I mean, I truly believe MMA is still part of the martial arts, but the has moved away from it, and that's really sad to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's also like a lot of element of the entertainer aspect with the MMA that's definitely more prevalent than combat jiu-jitsu is right now.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I would like to think that guys like myself are pretty entertaining.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I think it's not just people on the ground doing the so there's an entertainment market.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I had another question for Rose. One thing I've noticed with the rise in popularity of the submission-only movement is the tie between the Gracie Nationals, the Gracie Worlds, and specifically I see a lot of interaction between that and the 10th Planet System and the EBI competition circuit, which I think is a really interesting bridge there. Can you tell us a bit about that, about your relationship with that organization, with that?
Yeah, I bought it from Eddie. The thing is that Eddie has always been a very big supporter of my tournaments. I think when I explained the idea behind it to him, he was so much all over, and he was. I feel like a lot of the times because he felt like maybe his students got a little bit jacked. They were not jacked, but they were also part of the politics of who's your instructor, and they would have matches, by referee decision and all that stuff. So when you have an option of a platform, an opportunity to say, hey, both of you go at it, made the best men come out with no politics involved. He was really up to that and supporting that event very much. So obviously, as we became closer, and obviously I listened to what his ideas were, always keeping my ear to the ground, knowing what my customers want and what they were looking for. And obviously, we grew to have a really strong relationship, and not just with Eddie, but with the entire team, the team as a whole. And I've made great friends, and they have been nothing but massive supporters. And I don't think if it wasn't for the 10th Planet guys, my tournament probably wouldn't be going on right now. So it was because of them, a huge part of it. And still to this day, they are definitely my biggest supporter. And, he ranks those guys. He ranks 10 Planet guys, and to know who the top 10 Planet guys is right now, and they do a little who the best pound for pound is in their organization after every Gracie Worlds and Gracie Nationals. So you have to compete in my tournaments to be basically ranked in the 10th Planet system. So he is a huge advocate for it. And then obviously I ended up changing the rules to the way that I have to the EBI rules in order to have both of us kind of support each other's event, which made sense for me because it seems like the athletes that were competing in my event really like that set of rules. And I said, if that's what you guys want, then I'll change it. And they kind of voted in, and the votes were drastically higher on doing the EBI rules in my tournament. So I changed it. It was a no-brainer. Again, as I provide a service to the community, it is my job and my duty to keep my ear to the ground and listen to what the athletes want and what makes sense for them and what I feel will be the best way to represent their style of jiu-jitsu or their form of jiu-jitsu. But the guys have been nothing but amazing to me. So, and nothing but supportive of the system. And they literally embraced it and run with it. So it only makes sense that it looks like that's all 10th Planet guys. It is a lot. Like I would say that 8 of my competitors are 10th Planet and from everywhere in the world to compete in these tournaments. So I'm very appreciative of it. Then obviously you have developed a strong relationship because of it, of working together. And they're amazing guys. They're really, really cool, and we have a lot of respect towards each other, so it works really well.
That's awesome.
Did you guys fall asleep there or what?
No.
I was possibly said that was good.
I would also add that just what Rose mentioned about a commitment to service to the athletes and just putting on an experience for everyone. That's one of the reasons for myself as an athlete competing at her events and also being involved in helping with aspects of her events that actually was a no-brainer for me to get involved with bringing it to Philadelphia, because I honestly don't think if I was going to do another tournament or be involved to bring another tournament style or format to Philadelphia, I would only do it probably with Rose because she's really
girl, Thank you.
Well, that's a given, but the more I just think the format she set forth with the commitment to service, because honestly, I've done other tournaments, and in some cases you kind of just feel like a number because of the mass amounts of people and stuff that are kind of getting funneled through. And I noticed it very first time I did a tournament. First time I ever did a tournament Rose was involved with, it wasn't even hers. It was another organization out here that were using her rule set, and to make sure that they didn't have any hiccups and everything went smoothly, she came out to basically help them out with it. And I
just remember what you're talking about. I'm like, what is he talking about?
Yeah, she ended up being like the basically like an MC, but she told me she basically came out just to make sure there was no problems. She's out talking to everybody, making sure that everything. If you've never been to one of her events, she's always walking around talking to people, making sure she's equal parts interacting with you and having a great time, as well as putting out fires that are inevitably happen when you're running a big event or something happening. She's solving problems while simultaneously going, "Oh, how's your mom doing?" So it's a very it's that personal experience that she brings. And I honestly, like I said, I wouldn't do this with anybody else and or with another format. So, and that's the experience I'm trying to bring to Philadelphia.
I do everybody's mom. What's wrong with you, Greg? I'm sitting there super worried about collecting payments. Don't you know that?
Well,
Another question for Rose. Earlier you had mentioned an interest in seeing no time limit sub only in place of some of these short sub-only matches that have refs decisions. A lot of people seem to favor the EBI format. Do you think that the EBI format poses fewer problems than other formats, or what are your thoughts?
I like the submission only. I like to go all the way, no time limit until somebody taps. That's my favorite part of it. That is what I believe in. That's what I like. However, for the competitors, it seems to me that they feel that they're a little bit more excited about the EBI format, that they, have the chance to fast escape and whatnot. So, I mean, I couldn't really speak as a competitor. Personally, I like to leave nothing, he had a fast. I like to leave nothing on the table. Go in, make the other guy tap, because my graphic philosophies on this was that there's two ways of you ending a fight, either by complete knockout or submission, right? You give up or you're out, basically. And so I always like the submission only, no time limit. That's my bread and butter. That's my core. But I don't mind doing the EBI rules, and I don't mind that the guys like to compete in that system too. If they feel like it's more exciting, that it doesn't take so long. I think they're just happy to be away from my original rules, that it was the 15 minutes. If nobody taps anybody, they were both out of the competition. I think they're excited that they have a chance to do the 3 overtimes afterwards. So I don't know. Like, to me, it doesn't really matter. To me, the competitor has to have the complete power of making the decision of how they want to compete. And sometimes I do how do you call that thing? The thing that they do, the little game thing?
Rock, paper, scissors.
That's it. So, yes. So I let them, do that and decide which rule set they want to do.
Good thing I'm here for that.
What?
My input into the whole conversation.
But the most important input, because I wouldn't have been able to express your idea if you were on there, my love.
See?
That's how connected we are, you know what I mean? Rock, paper, scissors.
Do you think a no time limit, though, is a little bit difficult for the fans? I mean, I always think about that match between, who was it, Keenan Cornelius and Gordon Ryan. It was a couple of years ago. It was, 90 minutes long? That was a bit too much, I think.
So we're actually
now one match that happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, okay. I mean, most of them don't go that, but they theoretically can.
Well, that's right. At this festival for the major tournament, we're fusing two elements of that together in that the finals are all no time limit. So you have EBI rules up into the finals, but the finals themselves, we're also giving out money to the winners of each of the divisions. So basically, we're not going to give that away just by having fastest escape time.
Yeah.
I'm only giving you money if you win. So, and submission is the most definitive way to decide that with no time limit. Only for the finals. So it's EBI up to the finals.
No, that sounds good. Yeah.
So yes, there could be matches that go 90 minutes. My grandpa's fight with Valdemar Santana went 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Right.
That's right. Combat jiu-jitsu or MMA, pretty much, right? That was jiu-jitsu. So to answer to that is you can have 90 minutes of excitement. There are exciting matches because when you go that long, when you pass 15 minutes, then it's kind of okay, you're kind of in a similar level. But then at times, I had a couple of times that matches went really long that I was like, man, let me just say, okay, screw it. Let's just pick a winner here. That's it. But then at the same time, inside of me, I'm like, now I want to see who's going to go all the way.
Yeah.
And he really got this. Because when you go 90 minutes that way, you have a person peaking because they're not paced. You have to learn how to pace yourself in a way and be prepared for that. So then you see them peaking and giving their all and falling down and giving their all. And I'll tell you something, the bond that's created between those two guys is probably very similar to a bond that's created when people really fight in an MMA fight.
Yeah.
Because those guys are like, man, we just went through a 90-minute battle. And Chad, don't kill me, say that's nothing like to do with an MMA fight. I'm just saying it could be a little similar because they went through a struggle of going ups and downs in their being to be able to continue with the match for 90 minutes. So it's something I've never had an issue watching it. I've seen 45 minutes, hour and a half. I've seen them all. So, there's peaks of it. And then in the end, you see really who pulls it through it, who really gets to the end of the mountain, the top of the mountain. And it's a fantastic thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see. And even the teams, they're congratulating, the entire team's congratulating each other at the end. So it's a very different fight or very different.
So you probably think that. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So you probably don't agree with rounds in MMA. I'm sorry, not MMA. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like ACBJJ. They do rounds in their tournaments for some reason.
ACBJ.
Yeah. It's the they're an Eastern European Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation. They just had an event. I want to say last night. Yeah, but they have rounds, like MMA matches. They have 3 rounds in each match. Yeah,
I don't know. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, it might work well. It might not. You know, like, listen, the whole point in here with this whole thing was to get away from the point system that was in place and creating a different pathway for people to be able to open their minds a little bit, because everybody was just like this. So the whole goal that I had was to open their minds to all the create different possibilities that are out there. And then everything that's born after that, it's, man, this is awesome. Whatever you want to create, that's great. What you can't do is be conditioned to think only one way, and that's the only way. And by having the submission only option, it created people like the EBI rules and whatever ACBGDE, whatever they're doing in there, and how it's cool. Like, let them create. As long as you're creating new things, new outlets, new options, we'll figure it out which one people like and let them compete in it.
Yeah.
But, you know, just now the fact that the most important factor in here is the fact that different options are given and they're running with it. And that's amazing. Because back then there was nothing but IBJJF rules. And I was being crazy to even think about something else.
No, and that's a great point. That's one of the beautiful things about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, you know, there's so many different types of tournaments. You like no gi, you do this tournament. You like gi, you do this tournament.
Why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah.
Why calling it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
That's what it's known as here. That's what we all call it here.
Where are you at?
I'm in Virginia, but in the United States, you always see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or BJJ wherever you go. So.
Oh, yeah. I don't hear that often.
What should I call it? Just
either Jiu-Jitsu or Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, whatever. All right.
What podcast? Is it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Times or Jiu-Jitsu Times?
Okay, fair enough. Well, I think that's just to make it a little shorter. But yeah, okay, fair enough. You know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Times would be a little long, so. But I suppose you do have to differentiate it from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, so I don't know.
Nobody here is thinking that we're...
Yeah, so nobody really knows about Japanese Jiu-Jitsu anymore, so yeah.
Right. When I hear Jiu-Jitsu, I think of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, unless you go to like a Taekwondo MMA school, and then their Jiu-Jitsu is Japanese Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks for saving that conversation.
We've been having a lot of awkward silences during this conversation.
I'm just processing all the awesome information I'm getting.
No, I get that. Yeah.
Well, I think with the different submission only tournaments and just in general, I think it's great to be able to have access to all different types of rule sets. I think that's what makes jiu-jitsu amazing, is it shouldn't matter what the rule set is. You should have good enough jiu-jitsu that you've developed that it doesn't matter what the rules of engagement are. You should be able to be competitive and be able to not only hold your own, but be able to, you know, pull off becoming, you know, the champion of whatever event it is. Well, it's gi, no gi. I think it's all very important. Points, no points. It's like you have to be able to develop your game to be able to adjust to whatever the rule set is. And that's kind of like what self-defense is, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know what you're going to have to defend yourself against. So you should be able to compete with any rule set.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes sense too, because you know, you can't just be like, I can only defend against bear hugs. Like, that's the only thing I can defend against. Nothing else. You know.
Well, until not long ago, Brazilians wouldn't even compete if there was any submission from the waist down. And now they're like, okay, if I'm competing now against high-level guys, I need to know how to defend against the leg lock. So back then, it was like nothing below the leg.
Oh, yeah.
Or below the waist. I'm sorry.
Well, no, they still had some leg locks, like straight ankle locks and toe holds and knee bars.
Yeah.
They just didn't do any knee locks, which that is half the body.
hooks. That's
And
like
what?
a big no-no. Heel hooks is like a big no-no.
But that's what I'm talking about. Those are twisting knee locks. Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember that I have a cousin of mine that I'm not gonna name any names, of course, but he was like, I'll compete in your tournament if there was like no heel hooks at all. And I go, bro, it has heel hooks. You're a black belt. It has heel hooks.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, well, so in my match, don't put any heel hooks. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. What are you talking about? It's either heel hooks or no heel hooks. I can't put it. It doesn't work that way. But because the Brazilians are just not used to competing in that way. And I have friends of mine that won't even get near my tournament with a pencil pole because I allow the heel hooks and after past football out. So it's just kind of the mentality and how they've been training. But I do think that a combat jiu-jitsu without palm strikes would be really fun. That would be awfully fun. A no time limit combat jiu-jitsu with no palm strikes.
Yeah.
Damn. I would like to see that. I wonder if somebody would have the guts to actually take that match.
I would do it. Just let me do the palm strikes.
No palm strikes. I just
let me do
Why
a
don't you
2-day
like
event.
palm strikes?
Or what if the palm strikes? What if the palm strikes were like wild cards? You can only use 3. Like selected.
No.
That was funny? I didn't think that was funny at all. No, the palm strikes, the intention of the palm strike is to hurt somebody, and that's not my intention. I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want them to be aware where punches are coming from.
I don't know. I feel like I used my palm strikes to set up all my submissions in that last tournament.
The slaps then, on this case.
Do you slap somebody to be nice to them? Because
those
I don't
slaps
know.
hurt.
Well, I'm just not trying to break anybody's nose. That's all.
Yeah, okay.
We can agree to disagree, boys. It's all good. Can agree to disagree. I'm used to that. I'm used to having the ideas that everybody's like, that's crazy. And then they all fall in love with it later. I just have to throw on you guys like a ringworm. You know what I mean?
Who would you say was the hardest person for you to convince about the sub-only conversion with your rule set, Rose? Who was the person that was either against it and then eventually came around?
Dude, who wasn't against it, honestly? Everyone was. Everybody told me I was crazy. Honey, you're playing with things that you shouldn't be playing with. You know what I mean? Just leave things the way they are. Our family's been doing this for years. Oh, we've been competing in these type of events. It's very prestigious. This is never going to work. It's going to take forever for you to run this tournament. It's going to be 3, 4, 5 days for a tournament. Actually would say it was the other way around. I think when Eddie first told me about the EBI rules, I was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, homie. Don't do it. You're adding it for no way. You're crazy. And then later I had to apologize saying that was a brilliant idea. So, but I can remember doing but I don't remember who would be the hardest one that was convinced. There's some that I still haven't convinced. Your dad being one of them. My Uncle Hickson was one of them. He's just like, nah, I don't know about this. I like it, but I don't love it. So I think that's the same way right now. But it's cool, whatever, it is what it is.
I mean, Hickson had that brilliant quote about if you're not comfortable competing with no time limit, if you're not comfortable competing against somebody, 50 pounds heavier than you, there's something wrong with your jiu-jitsu. I think that your tournament gives people an opportunity to explore that.
Yeah, for sure. That's true. He likes it. You know what? He liked it. At the end, I think I grew a bit. I think in the end, he liked it. My dad was okay with it. He liked it in the beginning, too. I don't really think I found much resistance from within my family. I think people outside of my family was a little bit more. But again, they had to see it. They had to see it. And once that they saw it, I think they all, they really liked it. And now it's here. It's not going anywhere. It's taken a while and off and whatever. And in combat jiu-jitsu now, it's definitely, to me, I think it's more rewarding for me about the submission only that something like combat jiu-jitsu was actually came from it or, came with it somehow. That's a lot more rewarding to me because combat jiu-jitsu is more meaningful to me than submission only. So that says a lot.
It does add an exciting element to it. Sorry. It adds another exciting element.
We have the honor to have the champ right here on the phone call. First champion. So that's really cool. But combat jiu-jitsu for sure for me is what really show what jiu-jitsu is all about.
Things that need to happen to make it popular.
The way?
What do you think it's going to take to make combat jiu-jitsu become more mainstream inside the jiu-jitsu culture?
What the same thing that it takes for everything for people to get used to. Time. It's just a little bit of time. It's just exposing people to it, getting people to be aware of it, that it exists, having amazing matches with phenomenal athletes, you know, making it exciting. I think Eddie is doing a phenomenal job with combat jiu-jitsu on bringing that out and bringing the exposure to it. And then as more tournaments come in and start doing it, it's just a little bit complicated for them to do it as easily because of the fact that we have to have the athletic commission involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we have to figure out a way to maybe possibly remove the athletic commission out of this, then yes, it would be a lot easier. But again, you have to be really careful. There has to be people that are really interested in making sure that not just the growth of the sport, but the protection of the athletes, because there's a lot of damage that can be done to their brain with any hits there or not. But that happens with MMA right now. You know, I just went to see an amateur fight not long ago, and I was shocked with the amount of damage that a person is taking to their head at the amateur level. So I definitely don't want combat jiu-jitsu to become something like that. Something that they will be taking, you know, repetitive hits to the head, because I'm so passionate about CTE and the studies of CTE right now. That is something that I'm really, really, like, it's ingrained in my heart to try to figure out what the problem is and find a solution for this problem. And most of the fighters and most people involved in jiu-jitsu and MMA don't even know that it exists or what it is exactly. So that's very concerning. So before combat jiu-jitsu moves forward, I want to lay down a very strong foundation to make sure that I protect not just my friends, my family, and generations to come after me, to make sure that they're protected and their heads are protected before they go into these matches. So I hope it will take time to go moving forward, but there's still a foundation that's missing in there to be able to build the solid buildings on top of it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, because you know, MMA, I think, is still, it's still looked at with a lot of suspicion from the rest of the community, just because it's considered this barbaric sport. I mean, you know, John McCain once called it human cockfighting. So, you know, you definitely don't want to, you know, bring those overtones to combat jiu-jitsu. You know, you want to show everybody that we're taking it safely. Did I say something funny?
You can't put two cousins on the same thing. You just can't do this anymore. Because we're looking at each other, we know exactly what we're thinking. Come on, do you need to go?
Yeah, I think I need to go. I think my attention span is
Thank you,
done.
Kawan, so much for participating on this interview.
Yes,
Can't wait to go to Philly. Love you guys. Thank you so much.
For coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
It's going to be awesome.
She can't press that button fast enough.
All right.
Poor thing. You put, like, the family members together, you know, like, we communicate through the eyes and we know what each other are thinking. Kawan was her attention span was gone, like, long time ago.
I noticed she was pretty quiet during that, yeah.
She's just like,
Okay, whatever. Yeah.
The funny thing is that she's like, how long is this interview going to be? Like 10 minutes, right? I was like, and then Greg's like, no, about 45. She's like, what are we going to talk about for 45 minutes, people?
Jiu-jitsu. We talk about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, she's the poor thing. But anyways, when she started playing with the freaking animal, I knew that it was gone. She started playing with the doll. We'll see you later. But, yeah, I want to see, you know, and hopefully I'm together a strong team right now for Nationals and Worlds that, you know, I'm hoping that with this new team I'll be able to, you know, venture into creating combat jiu-jitsu if that's what the direction that they feel like we should go into, then for sure we will. But we shall see.
Very nice. Well, I think that we've gotten a lot of really fantastic material from all of you guys today. Is there anything that any of you want to throw into the conversation? Anything that any of you want our fans to hear you say. Anything you want to talk about that we haven't already covered?
CTE. I always want to talk about CTE.
That's huge.
That's all I want to talk about right now. Do you guys know anything about CTE?
Do not, and I don't think most of our listeners will.
Traumatic encephaly?
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I that's why I don't do anything where I get hit in the head.
What is it again?
It's what you ever see that movie Concussion with Will Smith?
Didn't see it, but I know.
So the issue that all the biggest things got in headlines is football players that have killed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They've Junior Seau, a couple other players. The chest scanning, because the only way to actually test for it is after someone dies to measure the gray matter in the brain. My dad actually suffers from a variation of it, from what they know of it. There's no way to test. It's all clinical diagnosis right now from behaviors and stuff like that. So it has all kinds of it's repeated traumatic injuries to the head. It's not always the major traumatic event. It's repeated blunt force trauma that can be the most obvious and most common is guys at the professional football level. At that point, by the time they get there, they've been playing football a lot of times 15 years. So, but MMA players, they get it just as much. So,
kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To that extent. Somewhat to that extent. I mean, it could be from kids riding bikes. They will get.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. Normally, the misconception that people have, it has to have a blunt force trauma to the head. It has to have a concussion, and that's actually not the case. Imagine that there's an eggshell. Your head is an eggshell, and inside it is the yolk, and that's your brain. Your brain is all liquid around it, so there's nothing really holding your brain in place. So when there's a movement, and the worst ones are not actually back and forth that people think, are the side to side, which MMA fighters suffer a lot more. And the reason football players are known for it is it was discovered first in some of the football players by, a gentleman out here in the U.S., but it's actually started with football players, but now we're finding out that more and more athletes have it, and it could be from any other sport. It doesn't necessarily have to be. The problem is that football players, the trauma that they get on their heads is a lot more substantial than even a boxer would get or an MMA fighter would get. But the thing is that I started noticing the simple fact that people are not educated on it, and the problem that it comes with time with MMA fighters. Have you seen an MMA fighter say something like they forget something? Like, come on, dude, they forget their flights, they miss their flights, they lose their passport. And they're like, dude, I got punched in the head for a living. I get punched in the head for a living as a joke. It's actually a very serious thing. It's because they have short memory loss, erratic behavior, suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety. All these things come together, and those are kind of some of the characteristics of people that do have that. And although you think, MMA fighters are crazy, they just lose their minds, that Conor McGregor goes and throws a thing out crazy and all this stuff, it's all via CTE. What CTE is the protein that basically the degenerative protein that's on your brain, and it basically starts eating your brain away. So when you look at a person's brain, there's a TED Talk. If you actually put CTE on a TED Talk, there's a couple of the TED Talks that are very interesting. There's one about Chris Nowinski, I think, or something like that, that he explains really well on what happens to the brain. There's a picture of the brain and whatnot. I can share with you guys for you to see a couple of these TED Talks so you can have a little bit of better understanding what CTE is. But
we just lost Rose.
Oops.
She went to look at something on her computer or phone and accidentally hit the end button.
Try re-adding her. Are we able to?
Oh, it's a
She'll have to come
call,
back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, she has to choose it.
So, anyways, either you got anything to share with us?
Come check out if you're in the Philly area or in the East Coast and you're not doing anything or you want to get some jiu-jitsu in, come check out the Philly Jiu-Jitsu Festival. It's going to be a blast. It's not just going to be there's stuff there for spectators. Chatham and I know Frank are going to put an awesome event on, and as well, it's not just them. There's several super fights happening and lots of opportunity to experience jiu-jitsu over the course of the weekend. Kawan's seminar, her movement seminar, is actually free for competitors the night before. So it's an opportunity if you're in the area to train and get a sweat on and work on movement, flexibility, and breathing but not put any real stress on the body, but still get, fluid and moving. Because our weigh-ins are same day, so you're going to want to get a sweat, but not go, risk getting hurt doing a open mat or something. So,
wow.
What other good super fights do you guys have on the card? Anything noteworthy?
A couple local talent. We have Basil Hafez is going against C. Ryan Quinn. So it's kind of a New York versus Philly match. Basil just had won a welterweight MMA title last night, one of the local promotions. So he's an up and coming MMA fighter who also does jiu-jitsu brown belt out of balance, and he's going against a guy from the Death Squad. It's also up and coming brown belt up in that does MMA as well up in New York. The other is we got Jason and it's not Hua, but it's Raul. There was an issue with the name. I forget how to pronounce it, and I apologize. But him versus Quentin Rosenwig. Also, we have Fabiana Jorge versus Danielle Kelly, who's Danielle's a local brown belt out of Renzo Gracie, Philly, and Fabiana's from 10th Planet Boulder. So we have people from outside the area flying in to compete, do super fights. We also have an open black belt division, black belt absolute, that it's actually free for the black belts to compete. So that's starting to actually fill up and get some guys in there. So that should be fun. A couple UFC fighters actually just I just got a registration come through last night for a UFC guy to jump into the mix. So and that's just a black belt absolute. It's open weight, and so it should be exciting day. Opportunity to test yourself for sure. And also the other thing is I tried to really create an event, because we took Rose's event and I polled and talked to tons of my friends locally that compete on a regular basis, and I polled them all the things that they hate the most and all the things they love the best about competing. And the result is going to be basically the format for this tournament. And one of the big things we did was we simplified the weight brackets. Instead of it being like 20 weight brackets with every 10 pounds a new weight class, they're all in 30-pound increments, and each mat has its own weight class. So you can see from the black belts, or actually from brown belts down, you'll see where your weight class is. You'll know it's pretty well organized as far as where that was the most common complaint, was it taking too long and not knowing where your match was and while you wait. So we have it set up linear, all the mats, so it's very clear where your match is going to be. You may not know the exact time, but you can get a general idea as far as what order it's going to happen. It's going to be pretty clear and concise. And also try to make it as close to rolling in the gym, but with a competitive approach. Because you think about it in the gym, you were just mentioning the Hickson quote a little while ago, but in the 30-pound range, you got to look for a guy to roll with. You can't get away from him necessarily. You're like, oh yeah, I'll roll with you next. 30 pounds is a safe weight bracket to where you can test yourself and be competitive. Beyond that, 50, 100 pounds, that's a whole another game. But in that 30-pound range, you can test reasonably your jiu-jitsu, because it's not necessarily going to be the biggest guy who's going to win. Within the same belt category also too. So it's a way to test yourself and still get the feeling of rolling in the gym, while also still being obviously a competitive event where people are going to be going for submissions. So if somebody's in a white, blue, purple belt that's never done a competition, this is like the perfect, from my estimation and talking to a lot of other people, try to create an awesome opportunity for you to try an event for the first time. And not, you're obviously going to test yourself. You're going to have all the jitters and nerves of the first competition event, but it's going to make that curve as comfortable as possible, while also having all these other events to go with it. So it's kind of lessens the blow of that, while still obviously, testing yourself.
It's awesome.
All right. Okay, I think that's done it. Anything else?
Oh yeah, you got all the information's on our website too. I don't know if you're going to list this on when you share it or anything like
definitely.
that. But pilgrimjiujitsu.com has all the info for all the events. So,
all right.
I'm excited to head out to Philly.
Yeah, it's
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.